Hello guys, welcome to another grand interesting video on your Leansimcorp channel, and in this today's tutorial we are going to learn about stores in plant simulation. So for that, what we're going to do is we are going to drag a source, then we are going to drag a conveyor. Okay, so let me just have this been deleted. Let me have this here. Yeah, so we have a source, then we are going to use conveyor. This is converter. We are going to use conveyor. Okay, now we have a conveyor, and then once the conveyor is met, let me drag in the conveyor. And then we connect the source to it. Now we have the source and the conveyor in the plant simulation. Then we are going to add in the station, which is basically going to act as a processor for us. And after that, we are going to place the store. Now let us understand about store. Okay, so the stores are basically going to be an entities, just like the queue in Flexsim, or you can say just like a buffer. It would act as a buffer. So what does this store does is that the function of this is to just add parts into it. It is not going to make part out unless that has been pulled by someone else. And by default in plant simulation, assembly station is the best station for, it has by default pull strategies being into place. So assembly station can pull parts effectively from the stores. Now let us understand about stores by double clicking it into its properties. We have its dimensions out here, and then we have all other parameters into here, which we will be exploring into our later tutorials. But if you could look into this and go into this 3D properties out here, you will get this another tab opening, which is very important to be used. In the appearance tab of this, if you go, you would be able to see and select different types of racks, different types of buffers or stores that can be used. So if I just use rack with round post and apply, you would be able to see this type of rack being placed here. There are different types of racks you can use, and the difference between the dynamic and the basic thing is that it is basically going to automatically adjust and identify the spaces required or available slots, available spaces in the slots. It is going to have its dynamic calculation, and that is where you can use static or dynamic based on your requirements. Now, when you look into this, the slot dimensions out here, and when you look into this origin, these are the parameters which are going to, change the direction stuffs for this floor space. So if I make this Z direction to 1 and apply, it would be coming to the level of our stations, and you can see that here our store is in line with this. Now, in order to understand what this basically actually means is that if you see here, we have this dimensions, right? Now, if I just change this dimensions here to 6, what you're going to see? When I apply this, you see that the 6 is been enlarged in both direction evenly, and that is because of this origin is going to determine how that's going to behave. So I make this back to 3, and when I apply that, our store will be here. If you see, now say for example, I just want to increase it in my right direction and not in the left direction. I'll change this origin to left and apply. If you see that, it will come to this direction. The top one is for X, bottom one is for Y. You can determine what direction it needs to go. Now when I put in 6 here and apply, you should be able to see the 6, like additional 3 will be coming to this right direction. And that's the significance of using these properties here. So I just apply this, and here is the another property I would like to share with you, and that's gap. The gap property is actually important when you are playing or dealing with robots, as the robot needs a gap between each of your MU or part to have a safe pickup and drop. This is another property which you can modify in order to have that done. In order to have, if you want any clarification regarding any of the properties, just use this question mark, drag and drop it out here, and you will be able to read whatever each properties mean for you. Now, let me just make this available, and let us run and see whether our parts are getting stored into this properly. And you can see that once these parts are filled, our processing of the station will be stopped. Okay, now let me create the let me create new source, then let me have the conveyor. Okay, let me have the conveyor, and then we will be having the assembly station, right? So here comes the assembly stations. Here is the assembly station. I join it out there. I hope that's connected. Yes. And then what we're going to do is we are basically going to pull in the parts from this. So I'm just making a connection between this store and the assembly station out there. Okay. And that is basically going to help us for our connections onto this place, right? Then let us add the conveyor, which is going to be an extended end of this assembly station, right? And then we connect it to the drain. And here comes the drain. Now what we need to do is, in the source, right? Here we have MU parts, right? We should be able to have a container, and let us see if that's working perfectly, right? But that's been created but not going inside. Let me see what's the thing. Yeah. Now if I just run this, yeah, we are having the pallets moving inside, right? Let me reset this, drag it near, and let's have this in this direction. Yeah. And now I just play that, right? We have the pallets coming in. I haven't decided anything yet into the assembly properties. Okay. But let us see by default what's happening. So there's nothing happening, right? So let me go into the assembly station now. And in the assembly station, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use predecessors. Okay. And in this predecessors, what we're supposed to do is going to be a very important thing for us, because that is basically going to determine how things are going to be pulled into, right? So now what we're going to do is, in this assembly table, we're going to go with MU types. What does this MU type does is we do not have to then change anything out of it. And this is definitely going to pull in the material automatically. Let me apply this and let me reset and run this. And let us see, right? So if you could look at, nothing is happening. Like there is no part being pulled. Why? Because we didn't specify anything into this window. Here you need to specify part and the numbers you're going to put as 4, and you apply that, and now only the assembly is going to pull the parts from the store. So if you see, it's waiting now. The moment you're going to get the parts, this should be able to pick up the parts. So here it is. We are having parts being pulled up. Okay. And if you see here the connections, and here it's like delete, and that is where the problem was happening. Okay. Now let me just reset the simulation and apply this. Let me have attach, reset, and then run this. The deleting thing was basically actually deleting that, and that is how assembly properties behave when used. Now we have attach MUs, we change the assembly table type, we considered 4 parts to be pulled into and attach it to the main MU, and then the main MU is going to get out, and you can see now the proper palletization is happening. So the assembly station is demanding 4 parts for its pallets, which comes from the stations onto the top, and then those have been filled. And this is great stuff about store. Okay, I hope you would have loved this tutorial. Let me know if you have any doubts in the comment section below.